Hi loves, so this is our thesis statements argument writing mini lesson for research. I wanted to start out just kind of like showing how this is embedded in our school-wide rubrics. This is the informational writing rubric, but you'll also see the same kind of statement in the argument rubric, as well as what our senior project paper rubric will look like as soon as we figure that all out. Now, essentially, all you have to do with your thesis statement and in your introduction is just clearly introduce what is your topic and your controlling idea. And the thesis is really your controlling idea. It controls what you write, why you write it, how you write it. So the definition of an argument is simply that it's a paper that makes a claim about a topic and justifies the claim with specific evidence. It could be an opinion, but without saying I believe, a policy proposal, an evaluation, a cause and effect statement, or even an interpretation of some material that you've researched. The goal of the argumentative paper is to convince the audience that the claim is true based on the evidence provided. Now, that might sound like it's a persuasive argument, or a persuasive piece of writing, but there's a fine line between persuasive and argumentative. Persuasive writing aims at persuading readers to really believe them, like that your position is the absolute correct one. The writer wants to win over the reader by appealing to emotions. Now, an argument writing, however, tries to limit the pathos, while persuasive writing still uses pathos, ethos, and logos and rhetoric. It focuses more on that emotional appeal to really win over that reader. Now, an argument writing piece is much more balanced. There may be a little bit of pathos, but it's tempered with the rest of the sufficient evidence that you provide. So ethos and logos are much stronger in argument writing in terms of rhetoric. But you just need to present a strong claim and support that claim with sufficient evidence and valid reasoning that speaks for itself. It should win them over with the evidence. You don't need to win them over by manipulating them in a persuasive way. So how do you get from a research question to a thesis statement? I'm going to show you 2 ways to use your preliminary research to guide you to your thesis statement. Consider how you look at the other side of the argument to help you strengthen your thesis statement, how to be specific with your thesis statement, and how to revise if needed. So the first way to use your subtopics is just to do a quick free write to discover what your claim is. So consider your essential question, and then just do a quick write, exploring what you think about what you've researched so far. So I started writing. It took me just a few seconds really to type all of this up. After my initial research, I realized that my gut feeling that imagination is so important and is true, even though teaching to higher standards is fair and rigorous for students, it is really important to maintain a culture of imagination. I have almost found my thesis just in my quick write because I'm sitting down and I'm confronting that. Another subtopic strategy is to list your preliminary subtopics and see how they help answer or help you begin to answer your research question. So if we look down here, I've discovered standardization has permeated education in the United States. There's an overfocus on skill that drives out some of the imagination, that imagination is important, and then you can't really see it under there, but there you go. There are ways that teachers can keep imagination alive in the classroom. So I'm going to think about how all of those things function as I can start to write my thesis statement. Another important idea is to not only look at the pre-research that you've done in what you're thinking and how you're starting to do that, but also look at the other side of your argument. Find it, research it, acknowledge it, love it. There's going to be lots of different other sides. That may not be an obvious dichotomy, but there will be people that think something different about your topic, and that's why your topic and what your thesis will be is an arguable claim. So I looked at some others information, and I looked at why people are so obsessed with standards, and I found a lot of great claims from the other side that I can refute with my own information. I found that standards bring higher expectations and rigor, and I found that they ensure curriculum is the same in every classroom. And so for me, I think those are 2 valid arguments, but then what I have to think about is how I'm going to use my stuff to counter that. The third thing to think about after your research question and your preliminary research and the other side is how am I going to then become specific with what I'm saying? I could easily be too general and say that the standards movement is negative. that would be fine, but that's too general. But I can also be too specific. Perhaps I claim that No Child Left Behind is the sole reason that students are not allowed creativity in the 21st century high school classroom. Could I argue that? Maybe, but it's far too limited, and it does not set up for a valid argument paper. Find a specific and focused statement, on the other hand, that reflects what you will reveal. So I'm going to, even in my thesis statement, acknowledge the other side a little bit, and then give my argument that is not too general and not too specific, but right on. So mine is, although the current trend of education promotes standards-based learning, teachers must continue to focus on the importance of imagination in the classroom. Here's another example from OWL of Purdue University. High school graduates should be required to take a year off to pursue community service projects before entering college in order to increase their maturity and global awareness. So there you go. That's another example. Then you would obviously present an argument and give evidence to support that claim, just as I will, or Ima will, with hers. The last component of thesis statements, and this is something that's really difficult for us to shake a little bit, is that when we write a thesis statement, we often stick to it and are unwilling to change. But the beautiful thing about research and writing about what you've researched is that it begins to transform. It's an organic process. They can move in a different direction than you originally intended. Oftentimes, students will write a paper and then realize, wow, that didn't even support what my thesis statement was. It came out in a different way, a better way than I originally thought. So I'm going to have to go back and revise my thesis statement to reflect exactly what I've discussed in the paper. So it might be just a slight nuance of your thesis statement that needs to be shifted, but it's very important to be aware that just because you write a thesis statement, it does not necessarily mean that you're shackled to that thesis statement. Let it breathe, let it be, and it'll turn into something really wonderful. Thank you, have fun, and let me know if you need anything.